Hi everyone, welcome to today's Space to Grow webinar. My name is Josh Clark, so I'm the Business Support Coordinator at the University of Essex and part of the Enterprise Zone team. What we do, we oversee two projects, the Space to Grow program, of which this webinar is one part. So this involves a series of investment readiness webinars, just like this one, on a various amount of topics, getting both entrepreneurs and investors ready for investment. And then once they're ready for investment, we can move them over to the second part of the Enterprise Zone team, which is the Angels Essex investment platform. This is where innovative businesses and investors can connect, and entrepreneurs can hopefully generate some investment for their business. Okay, so today's webinar is part of a bigger series, as I mentioned. So we do have webinars every week now, up until the end of March at the very least. So they usually run Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and in this time slot as well, so 2 till 3. And they're on a varying amount of topics. So of course, today we have social media. And next week, we actually have some more focused topics, such as getting the right investor and actually how to use the Angels Essex platform. So please do come along to those if you're interested in learning more about that. You can find all the sign-up details either on the University of Essex's website, or if you're signed up to our newsletter, you'll receive notification of those webinars as well. And do as well, as the topic today is social media, please do give us a follow at UEZ Space to Grow, and that's over Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Yeah, and through our social media, we'll post not only just the events, but also some interesting updates about the industry itself and some of the work that we're doing at the UEZ. Okay, so as I've said, Dan is our expert today on social media. He's got extensive experience in social media and running ad campaigns, because particularly today we are looking at ad campaigns. And hopefully from this webinar, you'll be able to get to a point where you're not just throwing money away at Facebook and Twitter and all the other services. You actually be able to generate some real value from ads that you're doing online. So yeah, without further ado, I'll pass over to Dan. And just so you know, just one last thing, this is being recorded and will be on the Essex Startups YouTube page. And Dan has done some previous webinars with us around different areas of social media that are on that YouTube page as well. So you can catch up with those after this session. And finally, Dan will be doing 2 more sessions over the next couple of months, covering different aspects of social media as well. So if you like this one and you find it useful, please do come back to those ones as well. So now I'll pass over to Dan.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for the intro. I'm Dan Spicer, as just mentioned. I'm founder and strategy director at a local digital marketing founder and strategy director of a local digital marketing agency based, I got thrown because I was going to say based at Innovation Centre, but I'm not. We've recently moved, so we were based in the same building as Josh was based, but we've actually just moved near to Colchester Zoo, actually, a little bit further down. Had some interesting growth over the last couple of years, and so yeah, have been fortunate enough to expand and really focus our client base on e-com, B2C and B2B, and really helping our clients understand the value that they can get from social media. Company's 4 years old. Prior to the agency, I was based in London, worked for a company called Hootsuite. If you run social media strategies, you may recognize the tool. It's the tool that allows you to kind of manage all of your content, publish and promote and manage all of your social media activity. And I headed up the social and community team there for a number of years. So my background has always been in social media, and a lot of the items that I'll cover today are based on kind of a ground zero level of experience in terms of executing on a day-to-day basis and really understanding the fundamentals of social advertising and where you can get value from that. So we'll hopefully cover quite a lot of ground in this session. And obviously this is all in the context of COVID, and obviously I suppose some of the challenges that we've been faced with over the last year. There's obviously been a huge shift in everything in our day-to-day lives, but also obviously a shift in how the digital landscape has evolved. And there's obviously a lot more attention, eyeballs into our kind of devices on a day-to-day basis now, on our laptops, on these things. The camera's picking it up, and kind of burying our heads into all of the different kind of apps and tools that are on offer, and one of those being social media. And social media has actually grown nearly or just over 400% year on year from this time last year in terms of the active usage, monthly active usage of those apps. So as we're finding ourselves with slightly more time, as we're finding ourselves with a little bit more downtime, with not as much traveling to do in and out of offices and the working from home environments we find ourselves in, we're finding ourselves more generally in front of the screen and in front of social media more. And that is obviously an opportunity for a lot of businesses to kind of capitalize on that and capture all of that attention. And one of the most cost-effective ways of capturing that attention is through social advertising. And all of the advertising capabilities that Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Snapchat, TikTok, they've all got advertising platforms. All of those are at your disposal for one of, if not the most cost-effective kind of approaches versus any other form of advertising. So it really is worth the time, kind of taking the time to understand kind of how those platforms work, and how you can kind of capitalize on those. And as businesses, you'll be in familiar company with every other business out there that is trying to kind of capitalize on social media. Here's a survey that Hootsuite have recently run to understand kind of what businesses' key focus areas are for 2021 in terms of the value that they want to generate from social media. And number one at the top there is new customers, customer acquisition. And again, social advertising gives you the opportunity to, yes, pay those platforms to get your content and your message in front of a very highly targeted audience, to track everything they do when they click on your content into your website, so you understand who that person is and what intent they have to buy from you. And if they show intent, to run ads to convert them into customers, and track that entire journey end to end. And we'll talk about some of that, some of the more tangible kind of execution elements of that in this conversation. And as we just go down the top three, probably no surprise, the second one is obviously increasing brand awareness. Obviously the Space to Grow team and the enterprise zone obviously focus a lot on startups. And I know probably a large volume of people on this call today are work within or own or found startups. And obviously brand awareness is one of, if not the most important metric when you're first going to market. So it's obvious the opportunity that social media and social advertising can play there to drive that brand awareness. And then finally, from a B2B, so 37% of you that are B2B on this call. Obviously, point 3 there being driving conversion, leads, purchases, inquiries. It's much more kind of B2B ecosystem, and obviously, again, social media provides that opportunity to put your message in front of a highly targeted audience, and look to drive them down your buying funnel, look to get them into the business, to educate them on what you offer, what services you offer, nurture them over time to the point that they're ready to convert from a lead to a sale, and then use social advertising to drive that conversion. And we'll cover some of the how to do that later on in this session. But outside of that, it's really important just to cover off that there is a much broader ecosystem to your social media strategy. And actually, the most mature organizations who implement a strategy have a very clear plan around where they're going to get value from each of these grayed out boxes under this strategic framework here. But most of the organizations that look to put a strategy in will look to kind of cover 4 key areas. Social selling, so how do I acquire new customers? How do I convert customers? Social governance, how do I manage customer service through social? If someone's posting queries or comments about my product or complaining, how do I manage that? How do I manage my reputation? Social HR, so that's branding, that's employer branding, and that's recruitment. So using platforms like LinkedIn advertising, LinkedIn recruitment advertising to reduce your overheads in paying recruitment agencies and actually make some cost efficiencies there by using social to recruit people. And then community on the right hand side. So everything you can do in social media around generating a community, generating advocacy within your customer base, using influencers to accelerate visibility. There's lots of opportunities to drive value from social. So lots of conversations we can have after this call and on the various webinars that we've got coming up that cover a few different topics. But today's going to focus on that red box, social advertising, one very small part of a broader social media strategy, but one very important part, which allows you, as I mentioned, to get really granular on your targeting and make sure that the right person is seeing the right message at the right time, and you're delivering that in a cost-effective way that can actually generate you a positive return on investment. So I suppose a little bit of context setting. I think in today's world, as I mentioned, kind of engagement and activity in platform has increased 400% year on year from this time last year. It's no surprise that social media now is one of the first, if not the first place where customers go to learn about your business, to understand what you do, to see the type of products and services that you offer, be it in an Instagram world from a direct-to-consumer perspective, be it in a LinkedIn world from a B2B perspective. They're there consuming content. And more importantly, the stat at the bottom, today's business buyers do not contact suppliers directly, and actually nearly 60% of the buying decision has already been made before they've reached out to you. So they're already Googling you, they're already looking at your profiles, they've already looked at your Instagram, they've clicked through to your website, they've done their research by looking at your social media and your digital platforms, and then they're outbounding to you. So actually, obviously, that validates the importance of ensuring that your social media strategy is up to date. Your social media profiles are doing the best job they can to surface what you do. However, you can then use social advertising to get a bit further or a bit earlier down that funnel. So if they're not at the research phase yet, through social advertising, you can still target a particular demographic or a particular persona, get your content in front of them early to give them that nudge. So when they are ready to purchase, they already know who you are, they're already aware of your business, and you put yourself in a much better position to convert them. And in a B2B world, I always get the kind of argument that it doesn't work in a B2B sense, but that's a complete fallacy. All of the metrics and all the data shows that B2B is actually sometimes even more important in the buying journey, because the buying journey in B2B is so long. So if you're a direct-to-consumer business selling something direct-to-consumer through Shopify or through an online store, then that commodity purchase is normally pretty frictionless. You can get them to click into your website. If they need or like the product, they can click 1 click, 2 click, 3 clicks, and they've purchased your product. Where in a B2B arena, the buying journey, the cycle might be 6 months, 12 months, 18 months long before they're ready to buy your services. So actually, social media is even more important during that nurturing phase, to ensure that you're staying consistently front of mind, you're consistently nurturing potential customers, you're staying in front of them through social. So when they are ready to buy, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months from when they first saw you, you're in the position where you can capitalize on that. And actually, through remarketing tactics, through advertising on LinkedIn and other platforms, there is a very cost-effective way of staying in front of them without them having to follow you or follow your LinkedIn profile, follow your social media networks. And then the final stat, 63% of consumers who ask for information about your business or products won't make a purchase for at least 3 months. And I think why I wanted to highlight this was, as I talk about strategy and go through some of the tangible elements of how to set up a social advertising campaign, remarketing is one of the most important elements of that. So understanding how to remarket to someone that has already shown interest in your business, that is where you will drive the efficiency and the return on investment in advertising. Because even with the best and most well thought out social media strategy or social advertising strategy, it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to capture someone right at the point of purchase where they are ready to click on that ad on their phone and put their bank details in there and then. And they might be on the train or on the bus looking through their phone, and that's when they see your ad. They might be on a lunch break and they're flicking through and browsing social media, and that's when they see your ad. They might be in a situation where they're not ready to purchase when they see your ad. So that first click on an ad is very unlikely to drive a sale. However, if you can remarket to them the second, the third, the fourth time, a week later, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, and stay in front of someone that's shown interest in your business, that is where you'll capitalize on the efficiencies, and you need to understand how to set up remarketing and set up your advertising platforms to be able to deliver that type of activity, rather than hoping to do everything on first click, which is going to be very, very difficult to do. I'm going to come back to this slide shortly as I talk about strategy. And then more important, social advertising in the context of organic. If some of you have been using organic social media, so you've got a Facebook profile, an Instagram profile, LinkedIn profile, and you're posting content, you'll probably be banging your head against the wall with trying to grow that organic reach and trying to kind of grow the number of people that you can effectively contact for free by having them follow your profile. And that is because of the way platforms are set up to effectively reduce or restrict the organic reach that you can get. So Facebook's, this is not an organic social session, but just to give you an indication, for instance, Facebook controls how many people see how many of your followers see your content. And on average, only 0.5% of your followers will see a piece of content that you post. So if you have 10,000 Facebook fans and you've worked incredibly hard to get 10,000 Facebook fans, every time you post, on average, around 50 of them will see your content. And that is the same 50 in a perpetual loop, because Facebook believes that those 50 are the most valuable or the most relevant audience. So that is very difficult to scale. So that's what this light blue line is showing us here, average organic reach. Back in 2013, you could actually reach 50% of your audience. So those were the glory days as an agency where we could really capitalize. All the way through to 2019 and onwards, that's now down at 0.5%. So you can see that trajectory. On the flip side, the darker blue line is what Facebook has allowed you to do through advertising. So in 2013, there was no advertising. 2015, you could advertise to your fans. So they said, look, you can only reach 25% of your fans, but here, pay us, and you can reach the other 75%. Those were the annoying days. 2016, you could then pay to reach the friends of your fans. So you could say, if you've got followers, you as a business can target all of their friends and their family. To 2017 and onwards, where Facebook then opened it up with some very advanced targeting, where now you can target anyone on the globe that has a Facebook profile down to the nth degree, down to what products they're interested in, what they've previously purchased, their demographic data, their income status, a whole bunch of data that you can target people against in a very, very cost-effective and efficient way, to ensure that actually you can get in front of the people that are more likely to buy your product, rather than worrying about trying to capture an organic audience where it's the same people over and over again that you're talking to, and some of them who are likely not to be as relevant as a customer than you'd hope. So in terms of social media platforms, this is the breakdown of where marketers are kind of currently investing their time and currently investing their advertising spend. Hopefully you probably recognize all of those. You might not recognize Quora. It is classed as a social media platform. It's a question and answer platform within those. So you can see the relative scale within those. Facebook and Instagram obviously owned by the same company. They're both Facebook. So all of the advertising is run through the same platform. YouTube owned by Google, LinkedIn by Microsoft, and then Twitter flying solo privately. But those are the top 5 platforms where the majority of marketers, the majority of businesses are spending their time. And we're just going to run a quick poll just to get an indication of, if you run any social advertising before, kind of which platforms you focused on. And there's a couple of questions in there. If you haven't run at all, any advertising at all, you can kind of select the most appropriate option there.
Thanks, Dan. So yeah, as before, everyone, you should see the poll on your screen now. So there's 2 questions as part of this poll. The first being, which social media platforms have you ran social media ads on, if any? So we've listed some of the most popular there, and also the option for you have never tried it. And then the second question, if you previously ran ads, how successful has that been? We'll give you a few
This
seconds.
is going to give me a bit of steer on how to kind of lead the next section. So we're going to get into some of the nitty gritty in terms of the tangible actions that you can put into place. Obviously, only so much I can cover, and I can't go through all of these platforms. So what I'm going to do is going to go through the process in the context of the Facebook ecosystem, which includes Instagram because it's number 1 and 2. But I am going to signpost throughout where this is relevant to YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Effectively, the strategy in terms of social advertising remains the same, but the buttons you click and the actual execution of that is slightly different in those platforms. But it'd be good to see kind of the breakdown and where people are currently stand.
Okay, so thanks everyone. And so here is the breakdown on the screen now. So as you can see, the majority you have run campaigns is Facebook and Instagram, but also some LinkedIn and Twitter in there as well. No Snapchat or TikTok. Quite a few have never ran social media advertising before. And a lot of people who have tried but couldn't deliver value from it.
Yep. As to why we're all talking today on this call, which is good. So effectively, yeah, no surprises there. I think obviously an over-index in terms of Facebook and Instagram, the top 2, which is the same ecosystem, and then over-index in really not being able to deliver value from that. So that's actually really interesting, especially with the slight kind of 65-70% skew towards direct to consumer. So a lot of people can directly selling to individuals online. So interesting. There's some more challenges there. So yeah, in the context of this next segment, what I'll do is I'll go through some of the specifics, and we'll cover off kind of really some of those actionable elements of what to think about and consider. I'll caveat that we're not going to learn everything in 20 minutes. So what I've done is on some of these slides, I've actually put some, it's actually way further down than I thought it would be, but some links to various kind of reading, some kind of light bedtime reading for you all in terms of some of the specifics around each of the individual platforms. So yeah, do follow up afterwards and grab those from the recording, so you can kind of read some of the nitty gritty within those. But I'll try and cover quite a large base in the next 20 minutes or so. But first and foremost, I think the most important thing to think about and to understand and to invest your time in understanding is how each individual platform has an algorithm, and how that algorithm kind of controls or distributes your content. And because once you have a fundamental understanding of how it's distributing and selecting people to show your content to based on what you set up, you'll be in a much better place to basically push the right buttons and select the right options within each of the individual Facebook advertising platforms to deliver you the value. And effectively, there's an organic algorithm and there's a paid algorithm, and they're 2 very separate things. So do certainly take the time, if you're over-indexing Facebook, Instagram, understand how the Facebook and Instagram algorithms work organically. Understand that in Facebook, when you post content, it only goes to 0.5% of your followers. When you post content in Instagram, it goes to 22% of your followers on average. When you post the content in LinkedIn, it goes to 35% of your followers on average. Understand what the numbers are organically, and that will help you improve your strategy there. Google it, and there's loads of articles around that for you to kind of consume. And then on a paid perspective, understand this ethereal Facebook algorithm that's controlling kind of paid media. And basically, this is just a timeline of the Facebook algorithm. What Facebook is trying to do through its algorithm, and LinkedIn has an algorithm, Twitter has a slightly different one, but has one, works in a slightly different way. What Facebook and Instagram is trying to do is trying to pick the most relevant content that it believes is relevant to you as an individual based on how you interact with the platform. So you, me, myself, Josh, anyone that's using Facebook and Instagram on a daily basis, you're obviously interacting with content. Behind the scenes, that content is tagged with a particular topic. It is tagged with a load of kind of metadata or data to tell Facebook what it's about. And as you interact with certain types of content, it forms an opinion on what you as an individual like. So if I'm clicking on lots of footwear ads or footwear content from Nike and from Adidas and from all sorts of brands, then behind the scenes, Facebook is tagging me as liking footwear. So if a footwear brand then advertises on the platform and says, I want to target men aged between the age of 30 and 40 who live in Essex who are interested in footwear, I'm going to flag up in the system as someone that is in that bucket. So it's looking at how you interact with the platform, and then giving you and showing you ads and showing you content based on that. And then the other thing is that a lot of websites have Facebook pixels. So when you run advertising, I'm going to go on to pixel. When you run advertising for yourselves, you should be implementing the Facebook pixel on your website. And basically that collects all of the data around kind of what people are doing when they click from an ad onto your website. What that also does is sends Facebook information about me as an individual and my browsing behavior. So if I land on a website that has a Facebook pixel attached to it, which is around 60% of all websites in the UK, has a Facebook pixel attached to it. If I've logged on to Facebook on that same device in the last 90 days, it knows it's me. It knows it's Dan Spicer. So now I'm browsing around the website, clicking on black shoes and black loafers, and Facebook knows that I like black loafers and I like black shoes because that's what I clicked on. So if an advertiser then later on down the line comes in and says target men aged between the age of 30 and 40 who are interested in black shoes, Facebook knows that about me by my browsing behavior on that website. So, and that's the same for Instagram, same ecosystem. So Facebook is collecting, and the ecosystem, and Twitter has the same pixel, LinkedIn has the same pixel, tracking pixel works in basically similar ways. It's collecting all of this information around what I like as an individual, what you like as an individual, and what your customers like when they're browsing online. So that when you tell the platforms, I want to target people who are interested in this topic, that's where it's getting the data from. And it's targeting people who are more likely to be within your target group. And obviously a lot of that information, as I mentioned, is driven by the pixel. So first and foremost, if we're talking fundamentals of advertising strategy, every single person should understand the Facebook pixel, the Instagram pixel, it's actually the same pixel, but the Facebook pixel, the Twitter pixel, the LinkedIn pixel, the Pinterest pixel, the Snapchat and TikTok, they all have them. And they all use them to track what's going on first and foremost. So if someone clicks on your ad, where they're going, what they're looking at, what products they're looking at, what their intent is. But more importantly, make all of your ads more efficient to ensure that it's targeting the right people. And then the collective nature of all that data that Facebook's collecting from all the pixels gives them a very good idea of kind of who's interested in what products. So it's a bit big brothery to an extent, but as an advertiser and as a marketer, we always look on the positive side of that aspect in terms of the ability to drive relevant content. And actually as an individual, the ability to receive relevant ads, because it's pointless showing me female clothes as an example, unless it's Valentine's Day. Not that I only buy presents for my wife on Valentine's Day, but it's on the I obviously gift her all the time with presents. But it's pointless showing me products that are completely irrelevant to me. So actually the pixel is there to drive value for us on a day-to-day basis, to only show us relevant content, to only show us relevant ads that are related to what we're looking to shop for or explore and engage with. So the pixel is obviously something that is worth your time and investment. As I mentioned I've just flicked back to the previous slide. I'll put a whole bunch of links here about the algorithm, the LinkedIn algorithm, how the pixel works, etc. So do click through to those. It's got some more reading, covering a lot more of the basis than I can do in half hour. But as I mentioned, all of the advertising systems have those. I put a link here to the Facebook one specifically. Before you run any advertising, if you haven't already, that needs to be set up because that will track exactly what's going on. It will track the ROI, it will track how many people have clicked and what they're doing on your website. And it will allow Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and all the other platforms to optimize your ads in a better way. So what the pixel actually does is when someone clicks on your ad, if they bounce off of your website because they're not relevant, so they've clicked through to your website and they've clicked on an ad and you've paid for that click and they've gone through and it's not been relevant to those individuals and they've not stayed on your website, they've not looked at products, the pixel recognizes that, and it will scan that person's profile and try to understand why. And if multiple people leave the site and they're not relevant, it will connect the dots and build up a persona of people that are not relevant, and it won't show your ads to those people. So over time, the efficiency of the ads will grow as well, which is why I speak to a lot of businesses and I ask them how long were you running ads for, and they said we ran it for a day and it didn't work. Well, clearly the pixel isn't going to be able to drive any efficiency if you're running it for very short periods of time. So when we're talking about advertising campaigns, they need to be run for a minimum of 2 weeks, a month if you can, and spread your budget out over that period to allow the pixel on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter to learn who is relevant and who isn't relevant based on who clicks, what they do, and then over time it will adjust your campaigns to be more efficient within those. And that's that middle box here around improving your return on investment. The system is allowing you to do that effectively. And then finally, once you've got efficiencies on the right-hand side, what the pixel does allow you to do is then capture new customers and a broader range of people. So because it's collecting data around who's visiting all these different websites, when you go in and say in Facebook and Instagram, and you can target people by interests, I want to target people interested in men's fashion as an example, or I want to target people interested in photography, the pixel is collecting the data around other people who have visited other websites related to photography or men's fashion. It knows who they are, if they've logged onto that device, if they've logged onto Facebook on that device, and then it will show your content, your ad, to that person who is interested in photography and fashion or whatever other interest you want to put in there. And you can get really granular within those. So like we have a running client, sports apparel client, and we're targeting people who are interested in 10,000 meter runs, but not 5,000 meter runs, because it's a slightly different type of equipment you need to use for 10,000 meter running versus 5,000 meter running. And you can break that down in terms of those interests within Facebook. So you can get very, very granular around the type of person that you want to put your content in front of. And then leading on from that, from a targeting perspective, in a Facebook world, you can target by a whole bunch of things. Bottom right here is obviously the interest-based targeting, where you can actually go in and target by obviously the specific interests as I mentioned. But there's a whole host of other things you can do. And again, worthwhile researching the targeting options. Top left, customer data. You can upload email addresses if you've got them. You can match them. You can put ads in front of them. Mobile numbers you can upload, you can match them. Website behavior, so anyone that's looking at certain pages in your website, you can match. All the way through to like specific demographics. Obviously age and gender, location are the obvious ones, but marital status, parental status, you can target by anyone that's had a baby in the last 6 months, in the last 12 months, a toddler between the age of 2 to 3. You can get granular, the point being. So all of that activity, all of that targeting is available for there for you to drive those efficiencies. And then same for LinkedIn, slightly different kind of obviously set up because it's B2B, but you can target by company name. If you've got a list of companies you want to target, you can target by industry, by job title. One of our clients is a coffee distributor, distributes coffee B2B to various organizations, to offices, to hospitality, etc., etc. And we target everyone that is a HR manager or an office manager of a certain size company. So we target office managers in the UK of companies that have between 2 and 20 employees, or 2 and 50 employees, because the office manager is more likely to buy the coffee for that office. Therefore, we should be putting the message in front of the office manager rather than the CEO, who doesn't have time to think about what coffee to buy for their organization. So you can get very granular again with the targeting in a B2B sense. So that's the targeting options. Again, a quick Google of different targeting options in Facebook advertising, different targeting options in Twitter advertising will actually just bring up a list of everything, and the list is never ending. And also how-to guides on how to set it up, and walkthrough guides on what buttons to actually click within those. But targeting is obviously really powerful in terms of getting in front of the right people. And then one of the other fundamentals to think about is how you set up a campaign. So often a lot of people fall into the trap of just kind of whizzing through the setup process, just clicking anything that they think is relevant, and just getting to the nitty gritty, which is obviously what message or what image I want to put in my ad. But actually the process you go through when you're setting up an advertising campaign fundamentally changes how that ad is going to be distributed and how the system is going to decide where to put your ad. So if you set up Facebook, so the 57% of you that said you run Facebook and 32% that said you run Instagram advertising, if you've set up campaigns before, you may have seen this window. When you step through the process, it'll ask you to select what objective you want to you're trying to go after. Depending on which option you pick on this screen will change all the other options you're about to see, because it will change the setup and structure of an ad to be more relevant to that. But more importantly, it will change how the pixel decides what's valuable to you. So where the pixel is then scanning like how to optimize and how to make your ads more efficient, it's looking at the objective you picked here and then scanning their behavior on the site to understand if it's aligned to what you're trying to achieve. So for instance, you've got traffic and conversions in the middle here. So actually you've got brand awareness, traffic and conversions in that top row. All of them to an extent do exactly the same thing. They click someone through from the ad to your website. Brand awareness, you're trying to generate awareness of your business. You put an ad there, you put a link in, they click through to your website, they consume it. Traffic, exactly the same thing. Add, image, link, traffic to your website. Conversions, exactly the same. Add, image, link, traffic through to your website, and then go on to purchase within those. So fundamentally, when you click each three of those, you're going to see the same screen. It's going to ask you for targeting, add image, copy, link. However, the pixel, if you select brand awareness, the pixel actually doesn't care how many people click. So it's not actually optimizing anything or even looking at the people that click to understand if they're driving value for you. Because you said, all I want to do is hit as many people as possible with my ad, because I just want to create awareness. So it's going to make it really, really cheap for you, but it's not going to optimize for clicks. So you will have a very low click-through rate, because Facebook is not even trying to get people to click on your ad or click through to your website. It just wants to give you really cheap views, so that from a brand awareness perspective, you can say, I've reached a gazillion people, and that was my objective, 10,000, 20,000 people, and that's all Facebook wants. But your people aren't going to click. It's not even going to optimize it for there, and your click-through rate will be really low. Traffic, same thing, but as soon as people click, it's going to start looking at people who have been clicking and starting profiling people clicking. So it doesn't care what they do on your website. They can bounce, they can land on the website, they can disappear, they can go, this is not relevant to me. Facebook doesn't care. All it's looking is at the click. Once they've clicked, it will scan their profile, because that's driving traffic to your website, and it will re-optimize your budget and move budget away to people who are more likely to do that action, i.e. click, i.e. drive traffic. But once they hit your website, Facebook doesn't care. So you'll then start to get a much better click-through rate than brand awareness, but you're not going to drive any sales. Like, your conversions will probably be a lot lower, because it's not looking at what they do. It just wants them to click onto your website, and then you can say, hey ho, look, I've got 10,000 clicks to my website. That's fantastic. Which actually might work really well if you're not ready. If you're a startup, you're not ready to sell, you're just trying to generate kind of initial visibility. There's reasons for that, but Facebook's anchoring around traffic. Conversions, now Facebook, you can see where I'm going, is tracking people that click on it, is tracking what they do on their website, is tracking them click on a product, and is tracking them click through to checkout. And then once they've checked out and bought, it's scanning that person and going, what does that person look like? Let's go and find more people that look like someone that's bought. For instance, so if I'm selling men's footwear, I might get loads of female clicks because it's Valentine's Day, and it, from a traffic perspective. And actually, if you had it on a traffic campaign, it's going to target loads of women after Valentine's has ended. But if you're running it on a conversions objective, it's going to look at people who are purchasing. And yes, there'll be females purchasing for gifts, but there'll also be men purchasing for gifts. And it won't be an over-index in clicks, because obviously it'll be at balance, and then it will scan people who are purchasing. There'll be more men because it's a men footwear brand. And then after Valentine's Day, it will then continue to optimize and try and find men who are more likely to buy. So first and foremost, fundamental, everything you do in terms of selecting or telling the social advertising platforms what you want to do changes the whole ecosystem and changes the efficiency of your ads. because of this thing on the right hand side here. So this automated profiling and then the automatic redistribution of where your budget is going to go. So if you say I want to spend £1,000 on advertising, and you selected conversions up here on the right hand side, it's going to spend about £100 or a small amount first, and then the other £900 is slowly going to shift to people who are more likely to buy. So as you get through that spend, it will become more and more efficient over time. And that efficiency is driven by a feature called campaign budget optimization. So if you go through for the Facebook and Instagram, so this is in an Instagram and Facebook world, it's the same platform that you go through. There's a thing called campaign budget optimization that I've circled here. You turn that on. Whenever you see that, turn it on every single time, because that is the algorithm that controls how it's optimizing your budget and moving your budget to greater efficiency. If you leave this off, it's going to be throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks strategy. It's literally going to spend all of your budget evenly across all of the ad sets, across all of your different ads. It's going to spread it out evenly and not optimize accordingly. So that's important. If you see that language, and anywhere it says optimize budget or optimize automatically, always click that. On Twitter, there's an optimization element. On LinkedIn, there is as well. Click on those buttons, because the algorithms have very, very clever people behind them that are building them. And those algorithms are there to help you drive more value, because if you can drive more value, you'll spend more. And that's all they want you to do, is spend more money with them. So clearly they're going to try and make it more efficient for you within those. And this is just a visualization. So lots of words on the screen, but the pink dots are basically your ads that are performing, as I mentioned. So the people that are clicking and actually going and buying or doing the action. If you don't turn budget optimization on the left-hand side, this is how your budget's spread. So like people are buying, but it's not doing anything with your budget across the board. On the right-hand side, it prioritizes people that have purchased at the top, and then it will shift more of the budget towards those people, and move budget away from the gray dots that aren't performing. So set up the pixel, turn on any optimization features, let the system kind of decide and do the work there. So that's one fundamental. And then the other fundamental I wanted to cover was the dynamic creative option. So you might see this. You can switch it on and off in your advertising platforms. But effectively what the dynamic creative option is you can upload more than one variation of ad copy, ad image. Do not skip this process. Invest the time and effort into creating more than one ad copy, more than one text or message for an ad, and upload more than one image. Facebook and Instagram allow you to upload up to 10. LinkedIn, Twitter, you can create as many ad variations as you want. There's not a limit. But Facebook and Instagram, you can upload up to 10 images, and you can upload up to 5 different messages. Take the time to do 5 messages and 10 images, and try and make them as different as possible and varied. Obviously, you're selling the same products, but try and approach them in different ways, different angles, because what the system will do is automatically like mix and match all of the different variations, and pick the variations that are more likely to get that individual to convert, and will be more likely, and will use a combination that is based on how that individual has previously interacted with ads. So this is where it gets really clever, because Facebook's obviously tracking what you're doing. It knows what text you're clicking on, what images you're clicking on. It can tell if that every single image you've ever clicked on has a face in it, as an example. So if you're an advertiser and you have an option with a face in it, it's going to show me an image with a face in it, because I'm more likely to click on that ad. So traditionally, for instance, on the left-hand side here, you might create static ads and it's just going to show the one ad to everyone. On the right side, it's going to dynamically pick the different variations that are more likely to get me as an individual to click on. So wherever you get an opportunity to upload more images and more ad copy, do that, and always invest the time, because again, the system is working as hard as possible to find the right combination to drive you efficiencies. So where a lot of marketers and businesses and brands fall over and trip over and not being able to drive efficiency is they just add one message in there and one image because they think that's the best variation. if you're targeting 30,000 people, there is no way one variation is going to cater for everyone's needs or perceptions. For instance, some people might be colorblind and therefore want to only see a certain variation of colors within those. If the system knows that, it will show them the best variation, as an example. So always invest the time to put as much in as possible. Cool. Just checking time. And in the final section, that was the fundamentals. So the fundamentals was around understanding, kind of first and foremost, doing the research in terms of how the advertising algorithms work. But effectively, the algorithms are controlling where your ad is being placed. And there's two really core elements of that: is the pixel. Make sure the pixel, do the research into the pixel, make sure that's set up and it's working and it's firing on your website, so the system knows how to improve your ads. And then click on those optimization features and put as many variations in as possible in terms of ad copy and images to let the system combine everything and put your content, put the right combination of things in front of a person that's more likely to get them to click. And then let's talk strategy. So that was fundamentals. And then so that's the kind of tangible setup perspective. And then outside of that, when we're talking strategically, there's a couple of things that I would recommend in terms of how you think about it. And it's a little bit marketing 101. So I apologize for that. And it's very funnel based, and marketing funnels are a bit cliche, but actually it does, and actually funnels are never linear. Like this is your typical, if you study marketing, your typical buying funnel, like awareness, consideration, preference, purchase, loyalty, advocacy. So if you're a hairdresser, for instance, and you're targeting customers, and I'm a customer that's looking for a haircut, I'm going to go through a thought process or a buying journey, right? So I'm going to go awareness, I need a haircut. Consideration, what haircut should I get? Preference, should I go to my hairdressers in Kelvedon, or should I go to the one in Colchester because it's nearer? Purchase, I'll go to the one in Colchester because it's nearer. Loyalty, I loved my haircut at Colchester, I'll go again. Advocacy, I loved my haircut, you should go get your haircut at Colchester hairdressers. Like that buying process kind of works. Whatever business you're in, whatever you're selling, there is a buying journey that is linear to an extent. However, it probably isn't as linear because you'll be bouncing around and you'll get a recommendation for another hairdresser and someone else might say, I'll go to this one. But effectively your buying journey is there. And I would always recommend everyone kind of goes through an exercise of mapping out what that buying journey looks like, and because you'll be in a much better position to produce content for that buying journey as a starting point. But that works in an advertising sense as well. So depending on what you're trying to achieve with your advertising, like if it's net new customers at the top of the funnel, general awareness, then that's a different type of ad to kind of purchasing if I'm trying to convert a customer at the last point of sale. And you can set up your ads down that funnel. And effectively, a best practice strategy should be running multiple ads, pushing people down that funnel. And what I mean by that, if I just skip a couple of slides and I'll come back to these, is what you can do is effectively you can set up 3 ads as an example. One that targets brand new audiences using various targeting options that I'm going to go through. So you get people to click into your website. Once they've clicked, the pixel's tracking them. So you can set up another ad to say, show this message to anyone that's visited my website, because you've driven all these ads, all these people to click into your website. Now they're visiting your website, show them a slightly different ad that talks a little bit deeper about my product and service, and get them to click to a specific product. Once they've clicked on a specific product, show them a third ad that talks about the price of that product and ask them to buy it. So you've got 3 ads, one that targets a completely cold audience that's driving them into your website, one that retargets people that have visited your website, so you know there's some warm intent there to buy. Then when they've looked at a product, a final ad that retargets people that have looked at that product with a sales message, pricing, discount, offer if you do offers, and a direct sales message. So you can kind of generate this self-fulfilling funnel within all the ad sets, where you're generating the new traffic, you're building brand awareness, you're retargeting to people that show intent, and then you're retargeting to people that want to buy. And if you're constantly running that at whatever stage of the funnel they're at, whether they're ready to buy or not, they're going to see something from you. But when they are ready to buy, you've already got ads there ready to convert them. And that's what I mean from a kind of funnel-based perspective. And all of the platforms are set up to allow you to run ads at multiple stages of the funnel. So again, Facebook and Instagram example, even though lookalike audiences, they have them in LinkedIn, lookalike audiences, they have them in Twitter, same language, same terminology, same strategy. So look at the top of the funnel, you might use like interest-based targeting, people interested in my product, or a lookalike audience, which I'm going to go on to in a second. In the middle of the funnel, you can then retarget people that visit your website because you've set up the pixel, and you can just tell the pixel, anyone that's visited my website, show them this message. And then at the bottom of the funnel, you can also upload customer data. So if you have, if what you sell is a repeat purchase, for instance, so as an example, if Enterprise Zone wanted to retarget everyone that has previously attended a webinar, we could upload all of that data back into the system, match the profiles. If you've got a Facebook profile, an Instagram profile, or a LinkedIn profile with the same email address as the one you've used to sign up to the webinar, we can then show you a follow-up ad saying, thanks for attending, here's the next one. Or thanks for buying this pair of shoes, here's a pair of socks. A bit far-fetched, bit of a stretch. Thanks for buying this suit jacket, here's the matching tie. So you can kind of upsell and cross-sell like through that funnel as well. And that's so that all the platforms are perfectly suited to allow you to drive people down that funnel with different ads, and just set up 3 ads at each of the stages within those. And one of the most important top of funnel strategies, this one right at the top here, is lookalike audiences. So the final thing I want to leave you with is understanding the power of lookalike audiences. And lookalike audiences are not only available in Facebook and Instagram, they are also available on LinkedIn. You can build lookalike audiences in LinkedIn, same process, same strategy that I'm going to go through, and same for Twitter. You can build lookalike audiences. And same for Pinterest. So Pinterest just launched those last year. Snapchat and TikTok don't have those yet. They will come eventually, but they're the only platforms that don't. And basically what a lookalike audience is, for those that aren't aware, is pixel, again, running theme. The pixel is obviously scanning people. You put it on your website now because you've listened to the fundamentals and you've added that into your website. So it's scanning people that visit, profiling them. Then what you can do is tell Facebook, go and build me a lookalike audience of people that have either visited my website as a whole, or visited particular product pages, or visited particular category pages. So if you're selling a particular service and you've got a landing page, let's say you're a tree surgeon, as an example, or let's say you're a landscaper, but you offer tree surgery as a category, and you've got a tree surgery landing page. You can say to the pixel, go scan every single person that's looked at my tree surgery page and profile them. Let me know, and then build a persona around them: age, demographic, location, income level, everything that's correlating from all the people of those. And then build a lookalike audience, which basically people that look like that I can go and target. It will build those for you, and then it will go off and you can run ads against those lookalike audiences within those. That's one, is website data. So you can build a lookalike audience. You can upload your email data and build lookalike audiences. So we can upload all of the data into all of your current customers into the systems. It will profile them and build a lookalike audience. So people that look like your current customers within those. And then those lookalike audiences can be used to target a much broader set of customers. So you might then say, here's a lookalike audience of my customers, go target, they're all in Essex, go target similar people in London, or they're all in the UK, go target similar people in the US, depending on what you sell. You can broaden that out and let the system kind of drive through that. And we've been running lookalike audiences for since they come about, but in our agency since we started the last half a decade, and they are always the most efficient top of funnel net new kind of targeting, prospecting campaigns. The pixel has a lot of data. The social advertising platforms are very clever. They understand how to profile people and how to distribute content that's relevant. And they are always the most efficient top of funnel sets. So take time, if you've not run them before, take invest some real time in understanding kind of lookalike audiences and how you can use them to drive prospecting ads. And then strategically, conscious of time, strategically, as I mentioned, you can ring fence people and then start to push people down each stage of the funnel. So you can set top of funnel brand awareness ads, run them, get people to click through to your website, then set kind of remarketing ads. So people that have clicked on your website, remarket to those. Then once they've clicked on your website and looked at a particular product, remarket to those. And then a final piece on ROI. What you can then do is track the ROI or the return on investment you get from that spend. So you know at the top of funnel, if you've spent £22 on that ad, as an example, to drive 10,000 views, and you had a 1% click-through rate, you get 100 clicks. If you retarget those people, it's going to cost you £15 on average to target those 100 clicks. If you get a 1% conversion rate from that, 22 plus £15 equals £45 per sale. And you can get a kind of really strong view on this kind of this self-fulfilling funnel that's going to allow you to kind of automate that process and sales and capture people at multiple stages of the buying journey within those. So you can get a really good strong view on the value of that piece. I put a bonus round in. Forgot I put a bonus round in. And then the final takeaway to lead you with is we've focused everything on social advertising, and some of the things to think about there. Organically, as I mentioned, there is an organic algorithm, and actually getting people to like, comment, or share on a post significantly increases the organic reach of your post. So every time someone likes, comments, or shares, it goes to up to 30% of that person's personal network. You've probably seen it before. You've logged onto Facebook and it says like, Auntie Susie likes this post, like, or Auntie Susie, or Joe Smith, Dan Spicer commented on this post. You don't follow that post, but because your friend has followed it, you see it in your feed. So for every interaction, and this includes on an ad, that ad is getting dispersed to more and more people for free organically. So the organic interactions are also just as valuable on ads. So actually, if you think about your ad messaging, if you can put open-ended questions, if you can put questions in the ad copy that incentivizes someone to like, comment, or share, then you can significantly increase the awareness of that post over and above what you've done to pay for it, which is this block here as an example, as one example of the dark orange in the middle is the paid advertising reach. And the light orange is the organic reach, so the reach you got for free. And you can see the organic reach significantly over indexes across all the other posts where there's been no paid. And that is because people have commented on that ad or liked that ad, and that ad has been increased virally into other people's feeds. So you get this kind of added bonus knock-on effect of having free traffic and free awareness. And that's where you can kind of get the virality effect on a post, even though you've only invested a small amount on it. So when you're running ads, always think about how you might be able to encourage some interaction, like a comment or share within the text, asking them questions, etc. So yeah, apologies to my watch is saying I'm 3 minutes over time, but points to leave you with, obviously taking time to learn the algorithms, really invest time in how they were going to work if you're going to spend money in the platforms. Understand that funnel, understand kind of what your funnel is, and then what message you want to put in front of people who are completely cold, who don't know about your brand, business. What message you want to put in people who are warm, so visited your website and maybe got a little bit of inkling but not ready to buy, and what message you want to put in front of people who are ready to buy, like they've specifically looked at a product or a specific page on your website, like the contact us page if you're B2B. And an experiment. Social advertising is very cost effective. The average cost per 1,000 views right now in Facebook is £3.50. It's going to cost you £3.50 to get in front of 1,000 people. And there's no minimum spend apart from your time to do that. So it's worth investing the time testing lots of different options, seeing how it works, and then scaling from there. It's a very cost-effective platform versus any other form of advertising where you do have to invest. There is minimum spend and you do have to invest kind of more money. So out of all of the tactics that you should be employing, social advertising is one that should be at the top of your list in terms of at least playing around with and really getting to grips with how you can get your business in front of more people. So for those that stuck with us, thank you. I'm probably just a little bit over time within those, but hope you found that beneficial.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. That was really, really informative. A lot of information there, so I'm sure everyone can go away and improve their social advertising strategy. I guess we'll open it up for questions. So we do have a Q&A function on the webinar. So if you have any questions, please do drop them in there. While we're just waiting for people to get their questions in, Dan, one question that I thought might be interesting is in terms of the amount that you have to spend to actually kind of generate any sort of value. Is there? I know the minimums are low in terms of what you can spend, but how much should you be spending if you're going to run a campaign?
Yeah, so I suppose it goes back to this objective piece, right? So if you're just trying to build brand and build awareness initially and get in front of a highly targeted group of people, then the obviously the minimum spend is £3.50 per 1,000 views, and you can kind of ramp up from there. So spend £35 and you got 10,000 views. Spend 350 quid and you're already up at 100,000 people that are seeing your message, seeing your asset and your business, depending on whether it's D2C or B2B. However, a good way to think about it, and as a rule of thumb, is the 1-on-1 rule, which is 1% click-through rate and 1% conversion rate. So on average, across the board, if you blend all industries, the baseline kind of click-through rate that you should be looking to achieve is 1%. So of everyone that sees your ad, 1% of them should be clicking on it. If you're not hitting 1% click-through rate, then you're below industry average, and you need to think about your messaging a bit better. You need to think about your targeting. Are you targeting the right people? And then if you are, is your message resonating? And is your asset image creative doing enough to get people to click? So that's the 1% click-through rate rule. And then once they land on your website, on average kind of conversion rate for e-com is 1% as well. So of all the clicks, 1% of them should be buying. And then there's some considerations around like the friction on your website, whether it's set up for mobile payments and mobile optimization, whether there's trust and credibility and how you accept them. There's quite a lot of variables in there, but on average, you should be hitting 1%. So in terms of thinking about how much you should spend, you can run the numbers backwards, right? So if you're going to get 1%, if you want one sale, you need 100 clicks at 1% conversion rate. And then if you need 100 clicks, you need 10,000 views at a 1% click-through rate. So 10,000 views, 1% click-through rate gives you 100 clicks, 1% conversion rate gives you one sale. And you can work the numbers back up from there. So to get 10,000 views right now, it costs you £35 in Facebook. Slightly different in Twitter. It's probably going to cost you around £15 in Twitter. It's going to cost you a lot more in LinkedIn. It's probably going to cost you about 10,000 views. It's currently £70. It's going to cost you about £700 in LinkedIn to get that volume of views. So they're slightly different in terms of the platforms, but that's a good way to think about it. In Facebook, to generate one sale at the moment is around £35. Should be if you hit industry benchmark click-through rate and conversion rate. But that's the 1% rule is a good kind of rule to think about when you're thinking about how much it's going to cost to generate sales in a direct-to-consumer world. B2B is obviously slightly different, longer buying journey, relationship building, trust, credibility that needs to be earned before someone's going and giving you their money. But that's a good starting point.
Yeah, thanks for that, Dan. Got a couple of questions coming to the Q&A box now. So where will the recording be available? So that'll be available on our Essex Startup page on YouTube. And also if you're on our newsletter mailing list, we'll be sending it around as well. So what I'll do is I'll put the link in the chat there, so you should all have that now. So that's our YouTube channel. And the other question on here is the 0.5% organic reach on Facebook only relevant to business pages, or is that also true of a personal Facebook account?
Yeah, so it's only relevant to business pages. So this is another algorithm thing that everyone can kind of research. So the business page algorithm has a slightly different algorithm to personal, and personal also has an algorithm. So Facebook is deciding of your personal connections, which ones are your actual real friends, based on how much you interact with them and likes of. So you've probably noticed this before if you're logging onto your personal and you've wondered, actually, Auntie Susie hasn't, I don't know, Auntie Jane hasn't posted ever on Facebook and hasn't posted in a while. I've not seen anything in my feed. If you go onto Auntie Jane's profile, actually you've seen she's been posting daily, like she's crazy on Facebook. But Facebook's decided you're not friends, so you're not going to see that content. However, if you click on or open one of Auntie Jane's photos, log off Facebook, come back a week later, Auntie Jane will be in your feed, because Facebook thinks you're now friends again because you're interacting. So I'll show you that person's feed, that connections content. Personally, you can reach up to 33% of your network. So you can reach up to a third of them, but you're capped at 1,500. So if you're thinking about using it from a business perspective, you're capped, and we shouldn't be using. If you're going to have less than 1,500 customers, that might be a bit of a left field tactic in terms of using the personal element, personal page to generate business contacts. But you've got a ceiling, but you can reach up to a third of your personal connections. The other thing to think about in Facebook actually is Facebook groups. So Facebook groups is now a much better way of engaging a community of people. That has another algorithm of its own, but effectively you can actually reach up to 100% of people within a Facebook group because of the notification feature that people can switch on. So you can actually ask them if they find that the content relevant to switch on the notification feature. And then every time you post in the group, they actually get a notification on their app, on their page, which says you've posted, which nudges them to say that you posted, and it doesn't actually appear in the feed. They can just click directly through. So if you're thinking organic, again, this is not an organic session, but if you're thinking organic, Facebook groups is something to explore outside of organic reach in business pages, but that 0.5% is purely business pages. And again, Instagram is different, 22-ish%, LinkedIn different, up to 30% within those. So the links in the presentation obviously talk about the algorithms within those as well.
Yeah, and we will be sharing that presentation as well in our newsletter. And one final question, if you've got time, Dan.
Yep.
Big one. And this is about the Apple iOS privacy update. Is apparently going to change things for Facebook advertising, and reach will get worse. Do you have any insight on this and how you think you can combat it?
Yeah, it's definitely going to change, and it happened. So it triggered at the 19th of January. It was when if you've been running advertising, I don't know if you've seen all the warnings that have been popping up saying it's coming. So the 19th of January is when they've made the changes, and it has fundamentally changed how the system operates, and for a better word, buggered the entire thing. But it doesn't affect reach. So it doesn't affect reach in the purest sense of like how many people you can target and the cost to target them. The cost has remained the same. It's actually got cheaper, and you can still pick the people you want to target, and the reach is just based on who you pick. So as long as you're picking the right people, it's actually got cheaper. So that fundamentally hasn't changed. What it has changed is one, your ability to remarket to people from Apple devices. So it's just specifically Apple devices, mainly specifically Apple iPhone. So if your strategy is where I was talking about the ring fencing element of it, as you go down the funnel and then you try and remarket to people, you can only now remarket to people in a 7-day window. It doesn't give you anything outside of that. So you can remarket to people who have like come from an Apple device in the last 7 days, but anything post that, the data's gone. So effectively, if they've come into your website from an Apple device and you want to remarket to them at a later date, you can't remarket to that people. So there are those people. So there are some inefficiencies in terms of the remarketing element, but it doesn't fundamentally change kind of how the system works in terms of who you can target and who you can get in front of from a reach perspective. The other thing that's affected is reporting as well. So if you're using advertising actively at the moment, you've seen that the reporting ads dashboard is actually broken for everyone. You'll see that the data isn't actually in there. You have to export. If you are using it and you're struggling with it, if you export the raw data into Excel, all the data is there. It just doesn't show in the dashboard. But that is because the 7-day thing that I mentioned is no longer available. So you can only, what Facebook does with the pixel is if someone's clicked on an ad and they come back within 28 days and purchase, Facebook will still tell you that that ad has driven the sale. So they don't have to click on their mobile, they don't have to click on the ad and then buy directly from their phone for Facebook to tell you you've driven a sale. They can click on your ad, look at your website, close the phone down, put it away. 28 days later, they can remember you and go and Google you and come back through the website and purchase. And Facebook will assign that sale to that original click from the mobile device 28 days ago. So you can still see the value that your Facebook advertising campaigns are driving in that window. What the pixel has changed is that 28-day window is gone, and it's now 7 days for Apple devices, only Apple devices. So if anyone's clicked and come through with an Apple iPhone, which is about 40% of the global market, because Android takes global, slightly higher for the UK market, you'll still get that view on 7 days. But if they come back 28 days later, it won't tag it as a sale. So you just lose some of that visibility from Apple devices, which is super annoying. It's the Apple versus Facebook fight. They're fighting each other. Facebook, I was actually just speaking to them last week, and they are coming out with a new system, which is apparently going to alleviate this and bring us back to normal. I don't know what that looks like, and I don't know how they're going to get around the fact that Apple won't actually put that tracking onto Apple devices. So, but they say they are. So watch this space. But right now, yeah, it doesn't change the reach. It just changes some of the tracking and reporting capabilities and some of the remarketing capabilities when you're trying to remarket to people in a longer window. So quite advanced, but yeah, that's kind of hopefully gave an overview of some of those issues.
Perfect, thanks Dan. So yeah, I think we'll leave it there. So thanks everyone for attending, and thank you again Dan. I thought it was a really good presentation, and thank you Christian for the technical support behind the scenes. So do remember, we do have these webinars every week. Next Tuesday is our next one. You can find all the details on the university events page. If you just Google University of Essex events, you'll be able to find all of our events in there. And of course, if you're on the newsletter, you'll get notifications about all of them. And Dan, you're back in February, aren't you? Mid-February, I think, where we're looking specifically at organic reach next time. So you had a couple of questions about that, so it'll be good to do a whole session on that. And and then after that, we've got B2B lead generation in March. So Dan, as I said, Dan will be back with a few more events, and you can see his previous events on our YouTube page. But yeah, thanks again, everyone, and thank you for Dan, and we'll close the webinar now.
So, for your time.